talking about section 8-3, which will discuss what absolute value is. This microphone's a little bit loud. All right. So absolute value. Here's something to kind of think about, like a situation where you might use absolute value. Two discus throwers try out for the track team. Thrower number 1 throws the discus forward, but thrower number 2 slips and throws the discus in the wrong direction. If you're the coach, how would you record the distance of each throw? Who threw the discus the furthest? Who would you choose for your team? So, yes, throws you made a mistake, but that's the whole point of practice. So the coach is kind of keeping that in mind. What you want is a discus thrower who can really put some power behind their throws. So if it was me, I wouldn't really be worried about which direction the discus threw it, especially if it slipped. I'll be worried about how far they threw it, because that is what the student is going to be, the player is going to be judged on. So this is a situation to kind of think about. You're not going to have negative points. You're going to have a distance. That's what absolute value is. I want you to copy this in your notebook. The absolute value of a number is the distance away from 0. Since the absolute value is a distance, an absolute value is never negative. The symbol for the absolute value of a number is n. A number n looks like this. So you're going to have 2 bars on either side of a number. For example, the absolute value of 5. So whenever you have the 2 bars on either side of a number, it means absolute value. This is asking you how many spaces away from 0 is 5. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, the absolute value of 5 is 5. So go ahead and pause the video for a second and make sure you copy this into your notes. When you're finished, go ahead and push play and finish the rest of the video. I also want you to copy this one in your notes as well. Find the absolute value of each one. So in Ms. Kennedy's class, we made a really good number line so we can use it as a reference for each time we might be using a number line. But I'm going to go ahead and draw one right here so it's readily available for me to use. I'm going to go from 0 to 9, -3, and -6. Alright, so what we have to figure out for A is how many spaces away from 0 is 9. What is the absolute value of 9? Well, 9 is absolutely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces away from 0. I know this isn't perfect, but you guys are the point. Okay, so the absolute value of 9 is just 9. Negative numbers is where it gets just a little bit tricky. Again, what you're asking yourself is, what is the absolute value? What is the distance away from 0? So we are given -3. What is the absolute value of -3? Well, -3 is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from 0. You never have -3 spaces away from 0. You just have 3 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value is 3. On your own, I want you to find the absolute value of 0 and the absolute value of -6. When you find that, check with a neighbor to see who got it right and who needs a little bit of help. Okay? Alright, and remember, whenever it says think about it, it means you don't have to copy it in your notes. I just want you to kind of think about the scenario and pause it for a second and see if you can figure out what the problem is. Here we are given a line going from greatest to least. You also have a bank of numbers. Some of them are positive numbers, some of them are negative numbers, some of them are even the absolute value of the negative numbers or absolute value of positive numbers. You have to find the greatest distance from 0 and then travel towards the least farthest from 0. Okay? So take a second to think about that, talk with your neighbors, discuss it, and then you can move on whenever you're ready. Okay, I don't want this to be a thing about it. I do want you to copy this one down. So, copy this. Order the values from least to greatest. Now, we just did this on the other side. The other side I wanted you to think about it. This one I want you to actually apply it. So from least, which is the smallest, to greatest, which is the largest. Okay? Well, looking at these numbers, you know if you see a regular -5, because it is the furthest left on the number line, and you have a copy of your number line in your notebook, it is going to be the least amount. So -5 is the least. Okay? The absolute value of -5, that's saying how many spaces away from 0 is -5. Well, that's 5 spaces away. That's the greatest value. Okay? So -5 and absolute value -5 are done. Now we have 2, -2, and -3. Well, we know that the absolute value of 2 means how many spaces is it away from 0? Well, I really hope you said 2, because 2 is the correct answer. And now we have to compare -2 and -3. Well, we know, according to number lines, the left number is always least. So the -3 is smaller than -2. Okay? Which is greater, the opposite of the absolute value of 3 or the absolute value of the opposite of 3? Whew, that's a play on words for sure. See if you can pause the video for a second and figure it out before I tell you what the answer is. Alright, so let's go over which is greater, the opposite of the absolute value of 3 or the absolute value of the opposite of 3. Well, let's take this apart piece by piece. The opposite means negative. We know that. The opposite of 3 is negative. But in order it goes the opposite of the absolute value of 3. Okay? Well, we know that the absolute value of 3 is 3. And nothing happens to that subtraction sign, so it gets brought down. So now the opposite of the absolute value of 3 will give us -3. Okay? And then we're going to compare that to, this one in red, the absolute value, so we write that first, absolute value of the opposite of 3. Well, we know that when we see absolute value, it says how many spaces. -3 is just 3 spaces away. Okay? The reason why this negative gets brought down is because it is outside of the absolute value. Okay? So now we're just comparing -3 and 3, and I really hope you understand that -3 is smaller than 3. Okay? So make sure that's correct in your notebook. And keep on trying. Okay. This is going to be a thing about it. You don't have to copy this down. You can represent the positions of the divers relative to the sea level using integers like -2 and -5. So if you're talking about what position they're in, like on a chart or something, you would use negative numbers. However, when you're talking about depth, that's a position or a positive quantity. You don't say, oh, that pool is about -6 feet deep. That sounds weird. It sounds kind of strange. And everyone's going to think this guy's insane if you tell him that the pool is -6 feet deep. What you would actually say is the depth the divers are given, or the depth of the pool, would be the absolute value of blah of 6 or just 6 feet deep. In this situation, we're talking about where the divers are. So the diver is at a position of -2, but he's not -2 feet deep. He's just 2 feet deep. Okay? So you know that the absolute value of -2 is 2. Diver B. You will not say that diver B is -5 feet deep. You would just say he's 5 feet deep. Okay? The absolute value of -5, the absolute depth that he is 5 feet. Or 5, whatever that is. Okay? So that's a situation where you won't use negative numbers or negative integers. You would actually use the absolute value. Alright, I think this is our last note. Copy this into your notebook. A college student is working during the summer to save money for the upcoming school year. She deposits the money she earns working. The money she withdraws, she uses to pay for her living expenses. So the cool thing about college is you get a really long summer. You usually get about 4 months off. So go ahead and draw a chart with your months, the amount of money that you deposit, and how much money you end up withdrawing each month. And you can pause the video while you draw that. After you create your chart, you have to answer this question. In which month did the college student spend the most money? So you would answer May, June, July, or August, and you would say the absolute value of the money that they spent. You don't say, go to the store and say, oh yeah, I spent -$450 at the store yesterday, or -$25. You would say, I spent blah. You would say you spent like $15, something like that. You won't say I spent a negative number. You're spending the absolute value of that negative. Okay? So go ahead and copy this down in your notebook, pause it if you need to, and then when you finish copying it down, go ahead and move on. Alright, this is the end of our lesson. You have to ask yourself a couple of questions though before we move on. How can you express the distance of any number from 0? Well, that's the whole gist of today. It talks about absolute value. When might you need to know the distance from 0? So I want you to think about the scenarios that we talked about during this lesson, about the depth of something or about the distance of something. And I want you to kind of think, okay, when would I actually need to know absolute value in real life? When you are done thinking about this, you can go ahead and start on your digits assignments. Good luck on those, and I hope you have a wonderful, fantastic Friday and a fantastic weekend.